Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Denise? Thank you. All right. Well, I just said a whole bunch of things. So what I said was that I appreciate that you are here on time. So what we're going to do, I'm going to get started right away because we only have half an hour. That's the beauty of these calls. We can do them in half an hour, get lots of great information out there. And if you have anyone who has missed the call this evening, I will save the call and I will send it out to you. Look for that via email so that you can share it with your friends. So really quickly, if you can find the chat, let me know why you're here tonight. What from the title, How to Breathe Easier, Hidden Indoor Air Pollutants in Your Home, what is interesting about that to you? Because I know that your time is precious. And I'm just so excited to hear, you know, what you're looking to gain from this evening. So let me know in the comments. And I have a really powerful presentation for you tonight that I am going to share in just a minute. Yeah, so wanting to breathe easier, especially at nighttime, helping the whole family. Yep, having some morning mucus. Yeah, here to listen and to learn. I love that. Dealing with sinus issues, some pressure and pain. Yeah, having double sinus infections. All the allergy stuff. Yeah, flaring up now and then. Also, if you have allergy things, when we're done, I want you to message me if you are interested in reading an article regarding allergies that is completely unlike anything that I've ever read. My doctor just sent it to me. So let me know if you would want to read that too. All right, well, I'm going to touch on all of these things tonight and let's get started. You can't see me now. Can you guys see me now? Am I here? Can you see my okay. All right. I'm still here. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And here we go. Okay, how to breathe easier. And I am Sarah Marie Paul from Mindful Oil Moments, and I am really excited to share my story with you. So tonight, what we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk to you about my story. I'm going to talk to you about top indoor pollutants. I'm going to share some simple swaps and some helpful resources. And this is going to be speaking from my personal story. So I am not a medical doctor. I cannot give you any medical advice. This is just what has worked for myself and also for my family. So here's my story, the start of my story, the start of my wellness journey. This photo here is a picture of my son, Cooper, who is now 7. So this is a long time ago. This is before he was even 1 year old. And what had happened during that time, my son was born. He was healthy, and then he started to get sick, and it was constantly upper respiratory issues. And this is within his first couple months of life. By the time that you see him here in this carrier, he had probably already been on 2 to 3 courses of antibiotic treatments, of which I think that there's a time and a place for antibiotics, but I also think that they are overprescribed and overused and even over requested. I know when I would go to the doctor and my son would be sick and he was having trouble breathing, I would even request an antibiotic at that time because I didn't know the harm that they could do and the havoc that they could wreak on your gut health that I know now. So he had had several upper respiratory infections over and over again, sinus infections, coughs that wouldn't quit. And I don't know if you can see on this photograph, but he has a rash that is all over his body. So he has this red coloring, it's kind of blotchy that goes literally from the tip of his head. It went all the way down to the bottom of his toes. And this was after a well check visit. So I'm just going to sit on that for a moment. This is right after a well check visit. So what had happened when we went into that visit at this particular time, my son was well. He got his immunizations, and within about 24 hours, I had to take my son back to the doctor because he had spiked a fever. He had also had this rash that was all over his body that was not responding to Benadryl. It was itchy. He was in pain. He was lethargic. He wasn't like himself. And I noticed that his breathing issues started, and his breathing issues would always go from his nose one day, and the next day it would be really deep in his chest. So I had taken him back to the pediatrician's office, and this photo is actually from the pediatrician's office because I was taking a picture to send to my mom to say, oh my gosh, can you believe what our little boy looks like? And I remember in that well check visit asking, what could have caused this? What is this? I just saw you in here about 24 hours ago. My son was well. He was fine. He seemed healthy. And now look at him. And the doctor, the pediatrician, reassured me that it was not the immunizations that could have caused this. It was not anything, in the office. What most likely caused it was just a virus, which I thought was pretty suspect at the time. And I remember looking at my husband and just wanting our son to be well. In the office, he had his first breathing treatment that day. We went home with another prescription, even though it was a virus that they told me that my son had, which again makes no sense now knowing what I know, because with viruses, they absolutely, they have nothing to do with antibiotics. Antibiotics can't touch a virus. A virus needs to run its course. So I was a mama searching for answers. I was a mama tired. I was a mama sick and tired of my son being sick and tired. I was also tired of being dismissed when I would go to the pediatrician, asking if there was something that was happening in our diet, asking questions if there was something that was happening with, with his immunizations, if he could have been sensitive to them, asking if there was something within our environment, within our home, that was causing these upper respiratory illnesses. Because I'm telling you, he would be sick, he would get well, and then it would just be like I would turn around and my son would be sick again, and I'd be taking him in for another sick visit. So what did I do? Well, after that visit that I showed you, I remember going home. I literally slept next to the crib on the floor that night, and I listened to my son breathing, and I just prayed that he would be okay, and that I would be okay, and that everything would be okay. And I remember looking at my husband once I went back into bed in the wee hours of the next morning, and I just said, we have got to do something different. What do we have to do different here? So what did we do? What we ended up doing is we fired my pediatrician because we realized that he wasn't listening to me. I felt as though he acted like he was just the all-knowing being, and that I was just a mom who knew nothing. So whenever I would bring my own personal research, I was dismissed as being just a mom, that I had no medical background. So I clearly knew nothing. And that is not the case. There is a plethora of research that is out there that any of us can access. So I fired my pediatrician because we didn't align. I hired a holistic nutritionist to look into our diet, into our supplementation. I hired a chiropractor to be proactive for our health. I started doing muscle response testing to see where the weak parts of our bodies were and how we could do things like eat to help to strengthen those areas, use supplements to help to strengthen those areas as well. hired a new family doctor that we all still go to. And I reached out to a friend who was using essential oils and had a community of like-minded women so that I could ask questions and not feel like I was a crazy person, because I'm not a crazy person. I wasn't a crazy person. And a lot has changed in 7 years that these things are more commonplace, but at the time they just weren't as commonplace. And I did my own research. I went to PubMed. I looked at peer-reviewed journal research articles, trying to find out, what else was going on? What else were other people having success with? I went into holistic groups. I asked questions. I asked people their testimonies, their stories. What do you use? What works for you? What do you see in your child when you do this, that? I actually started reading the labels, the warning labels, the inserts of prescriptions of over-the-counter medicines, and also the vaccinations too. And I started to make my own educated decisions based off of what I found from all of that information. And I started looking into indoor air pollutants, because what I had said to my husband was, there has to be something in here. Like, there has to be, because we would even go on vacation and I would notice that like his breathing would start to clear up, or different seasons, his breathing would start to be more clear. Like maybe when we had the windows open more often, which again, didn't really make sense, because if my son maybe possibly had allergies, why, when the windows were open, when he was more susceptible to seasonal allergies and irritants, why would his breathing clear up? So what I'm going to share with you now is top indoor air pollutants. And this is going to be a lot of information, but you can go back and you can look into each of these individually too. So there are VOCs. VOCs, that stands for volatile organic compounds. Some of these, they exist in like everything. They really do. Anything that emits a smell. So like when you're cooking onions, you're going to have VOCs emitted in your home. Okay. That's why some of those smells linger, like the smell of fish or the smell of garlic. VOCs that are in your home. They're not necessarily harmful, right? But then there's other VOCs that are in your home that I'm going to do a more complete list, but things like formaldehyde, things like fragrance, things like all different types of personal care products that we're using, cleaners, like all different things like that emit VOCs, and some of them can be potentially dangerous, especially to our upper respiratory health. Another top indoor air pollutant, which was more surprising when I looked into this, was excess moisture in your home. So if your home tends to get condensation on the windows when there's a temperature influx, like it's warmer inside, cooler outside, you most likely have excess moisture in your home. If you, like what happened to me in my home, everything I'm talking to you about with this story happened in our home previously that we lived in 2 years ago. But if you have a bathroom where it completely fills up with condensation when you take a shower, even though you have the fan on, and your ceiling tends to get moldy, you have excess moisture in your home. Especially with new builds, what people find, and what I found, was that they are built so well insulated that these VOCs and a lot of other things, they cannot escape, right? So all of this is getting pent up in our home. And we have air conditioning systems, we have heating systems. So we're really not opening the windows as much as we used to. And we don't want a drafty house. Houses of the past, homes of the past had more drafts, right? So what we're finding is a buildup of these air pollutants, these VOCs, things like that. Radon is a naturally occurring gas that is actually really common in southeastern Pennsylvania, where I live. I'll tell you my story with that. Combustion products, such as gas heaters, gas stoves, things like that. Now, what should happen is that these things should kick on, and they should have ventilation fans attached to them, which successfully take out, those combustion gases from your home. But what happens, like in my other home, we would turn the overhead fan on the stove, and it just didn't seem to like get everything out. I don't know. And that can accumulate in your kitchen, and that can be really, really cause damage to your lungs as well. There's personal care cleaning products, like I mentioned, and tobacco smoke is obviously a huge one too. So our top pollutants, meaning my family's top pollutants, what we figured out were the biggest forms of VOCs in our home were our furniture, because we were buying, it was our first home. We were buying cheap new furniture from places like IKEA, from places like Target. And I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, like, that's where we were and that's what we were doing. And they were off gassing so much crud into our home. What really hit it home for me was when we unpacked my son's nursery rug. And the first rug that we unpacked, we unrolled it, we put it into the nursery. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's not like, this thing smells. And my husband came in the room and was just like, whoa, that is like, that's terrible. It smells straight up like chemicals. And so what did we do at the time? What I should have done was taken it outside to help to off gas it. But what I did, we rolled it right back up and we actually mailed it back to the company. Because what the company had said when we had called them, because we said, hey, this rug that you gave us for our son's nursery, like, we ordered this, it smells straight up like chemicals, like toxic chemicals. And they just said, oh yeah, off gassing is normal. You can just put it into your basement. Well, what happens if you put this into your basement? Do you think that that's just going to magically disappear? No, absolutely not. That's going to be in your basement then, right? And it's something that you're going to have to deal with. Flame retardant clothing. Okay, this is a thing that came to be in like the 60s and 70s. And this is specifically on pajamas. And what happens is flame retardant chemicals are sprayed onto children's pajamas and some other clothing and some stuffed animals too. Why? Well, did you know that this all goes back to when cigarette smoking was just like pushed all the time by tobacco lobbyists? And instead of telling people not to smoke, like when you're tired in your home and you're falling asleep on the sofa, right? Because what would happen if people were smoking and something could catch on fire if you fall asleep when you're smoking a cigarette in your home, like on your sofa. And I'm saying this now in 2022, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so absurd, but this is the things that would happen, right? And so what did these lobbyists say? Oh, well, we're not going to say that it is the cigarettes that are the problem here. We're going to say that it's the fact that when the cigarette falls onto the sofa, or when the cigarette falls onto the child's clothing that is laying on the sofa next to the parent, or the rug, right? The fault lies on that inanimate material, that it catches fire so quickly and easily. So we are going to spray them down with flame retardant chemicals. And this is still a thing that people do today, that companies do today. It's wild. It's especially done on polyester pajamas for children. One of the reasons that I do not buy anything polyester pajamas for my children is because they're sprayed with flame retardant chemicals, and other synthetic materials too, like nylon pajamas. Cleaning products, huge issue in our home. Huge issue in our home at that time. I was using bleach. I was using Lysol. I was using Febreze on everything. Those things were no good. They are no good. I'm just saying, like, they're no good from an air pollutant perspective, also from health perspectives, but I'm focusing on indoor air pollution. Personal care products. I was using aerosol, crazy amounts of aerosol hairspray. I was using perfumes. I was using Bath and Body Works solutions. I was using all sorts of different things that all, again, contribute to the VOCs. Fresh paint in our new home. We moved in. We wanted to paint things. Paint is like one of the top toxic VOC pollutants. And I mean, those VOCs can take up to 6 months to a year to off gas in your home, which is huge. Radon. Do any of you have a radon detector in your home? Just kind of curious about that. We did not at the time, because when we purchased our home and we had our inspections, our levels were acceptable. Well, I found out a couple years later that our levels went from acceptable to dangerous in just a couple years. And this can happen, especially if you're in an area that is really prone to radon. Like I said, in southeastern Pennsylvania, where I live now, it is. And that can happen just with settling of the home. Like if there are any cracks, any crevices, things like that in foundation, that's something that can happen. I had no idea. I just thought that like we had it checked. We're good. We weren't good. We weren't good at all. Excess moisture. That's what I talked to you about with the condensation, and then fragrance. Oh my gosh, the candles, the plugins that I was doing just to make my home smell good, smell fresh, smell clean. They were all contributing to my son's upper respiratory issues, because these things can irritate someone. You might say, oh, well, those things, don't bother me. Okay, great. Well, if you're here thinking about a family member who has upper respiratory reoccurring issues, their weak spot may be their lungs. And that can trigger and re-trigger upper respiratory episodes. So what are some simple swaps? Well, some of the swaps that I'm going to share with you are more simple than others, and they're going to focus on the 4 areas that I just talked to you about, the things that we were really focused on improving, which are going to be those VOCs, the radon, excess moisture, and also with fragrance. So VOCs, from that point forward, we will not buy furniture or we will not buy rugs that are sprayed with harmful chemicals. I scoured the internet. I talked to other people for clean, building materials, things like that, to be able to find companies that do not do that. In addition, a more cost-effective way too is to buy things secondhand. They've already off-gassed, okay? Especially like with furniture, like I said, rugs might be a little bit more difficult depending, but with furniture, if you buy something secondhand, it's already gone through that off-gassing period. Like I said, it might be like 6 months to a year for it to fully off-gas with those chemicals into the air. I told you about our pajamas and what we do with those, especially for pajamas. We do all cotton and we do organic for those. We don't wear all organic clothing in our household. We're not there yet. I do a lot of secondhand, but especially for pajamas, it's for our children specifically, because they are the targeted ones from babies on up. Clean paint. So when we moved into our new home, we chose to do, we used Sherwin-Williams paint, and we used their Emerald brand of paint, and they have clean paint. It's not perfect, but it is way better with the lowest levels of VOCs that we could find. Removing shoes when entering the household. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for me because I have a crawling baby, but it is a big deal because it leaves so many pollutants outside your home rather than bringing all that stuff into your home. And having houseplants everywhere. I mean, the more houseplants that you can have, remember that plants and us, we have a symbiotic relationship. So they're going to be able to take some of those pollutants out of the air for you. For our radon situation, as soon as we moved into this home, we had it checked for radon. We have a full radon remediation system put in. In addition, we have sensors now. So we have these sensors for this company called Yoo-Hoo that I can look up on my phone, and it shows you real-time indoor air quality for your home, which is really fantastic. It's something that I wanted. It's something that my husband does through his business. But it was something that was really important to me, that we would know, we would have the peace of mind when we're using our gas stove, when we're using our gas appliances, when we're using things like that, that I would be able to monitor that. So that was really important to me. For the excess moisture, at the old house, we put bigger, badder bathroom overhead fans in that automatically turned on with the lights. At this house, we installed a whole home ventilation system. And that was extremely helpful because what a ventilation system does, if you don't know, with a typical air and heat system, it does not ventilate, which means that it does not bring outside air inside your home at all. So if you are someone who says that you have allergies and you just always either run the heat or the air in your home and you don't open up windows, you are not getting fresh air into your home. You are getting recirculated air into your home. A ventilator or a ventilation system is a completely separate part that you have to get in order to have it bring outdoor air into your home periodically so that you're breathing literally fresh air. I had no idea that that wasn't even a part of a typical home heating and air conditioning system. For fragrance and for those toxic VOCs that I had from cleaning products and also from personal care products, I ditched all the candles. I diffuse only Young Living oils. I started using Young Living personal care products. I ditched the bleach. I ditched the Lysol. I ditched the Febreze. I replaced all of that with Thieves Cleaner. Like, how blessed are we that we can replace all those things with one cleaner that actually, nourishes our upper respiratory system instead of adding so much harm, like all those other things that we were doing before, that I was doing, that my family was doing before. Helpful resources. So here are some documentaries that you may want to take a peek at. Stink was the one that really just opened up my eyes, especially to the clothing thing, especially to the prevalence of the flame retardants on clothing. The Human Experiment. Commercial is another one. Our Chemical Lives is another one. As far as air filtration, so what we started with in our other home before we had like this whole home filtration system, we had one of those smaller air filters that we would put into bedrooms at night. The one that we used was IntelliPure. That's the brand. And we would just, it's like a small little rectangle that we put on. We would turn it on in our bedrooms because those were our targeted areas, especially for sleeping. And it made such a huge difference. You should see what it filtered from our air. The ventilator is Santa Fe is the company, and the air sensors are through Yoo-Hoo, and they're placed in every single room. And I'm just taking a look to see. Okay, mattresses, huge. Thank you, Julie. That was big for us too. We replaced all of our mattresses. Mattresses are another huge contributor because we are sleeping on them. We are spending like half of our life asleep, right? So we chose to do brand new mattresses, to do brand new pillows, and to do organic sheets. And that was all very important to us. We went with the avocado mattress and with their pillows as well after doing a lot of research. If you want more information, I can look up to show you exactly the one that we chose, but we switched all of them out. So we have that for even for my daughter's crib mattress. Not that she sleeps there, but she has a very nice mattress in her crib. My son has a clean mattress on his bed, and we have clean mattresses we have a clean mattress as well after doing tons and tons of research. The reason is because in our old home, we had, what is it? Like a memory foam, I don't know, some type of memory foam, something. And you can do your own independent research. I did my own independent research, and I decided to switch because of why not if you're switching, and we did it little by little too. So that is what I have for you tonight. That was already half an hour. My goodness. All right. So this is me, Sarah Marie Paul. Here's my information. If you would have any questions, feel free to reach out. I can share with you other information, other resources. If you are interested in that article, maybe, you know what, I'm just going to send the article when I send out the replay via email to all of you. I will also include that allergy article so that you can take a look at that. If you take the time to read it, it's like an 8-page article. message me and let me know if you want to have a conversation about it. I still haven't fully digested it, but it is really interesting and totally unlike anything that I've read in the past. So thank you all so much for coming out tonight. And I hope that this was of value to you. I hope that you took at least, one tidbit that you are going to be able to use, that you are going to be able to do. Like I said, don't get overwhelmed. You cannot do it all, but you can take it in little baby steps, depending on where your focus areas are, and they can make a huge difference in your life and in your health. So I hope that all of you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you later. Take care.